Membership site versus online course. Which one's best? Should you have both? Should you start with a membership site, then add an online course? Should you start with an online course and build up to a membership site? Well, if you've ever had any of those questions, that's what we're going to answer in today's show. Hey, messengers, welcome to the Market Your Message Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Milligan, and author of the book, Your Message Matters, How to Rise Above the Noise and Get Paid for What You Know. And here's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. You're going to discover what you must have in place before you consider launching a course. We're also going to talk about what you must have in place before you launch that membership site. Then I'm going to talk about the biggest pitfalls most membership site owners face so you can avoid this trap and much, much more. Now, if you're just getting started, I want to tell you about a free 9-page guide. It's our most popular downloaded guide. It's called the Discover Your Message Blueprint. Now, it's going to help you understand who your audience is, where you show up best, and it's going to help you solve your purpose, people, and passion so you know what type of business to start in the first place. You can go to marketyourmessage.com/discover and find out more and download that guide for free. All right, in today's episode, as always, we record these episodes both as a live stream that's also going to be turned into a YouTube video and then a podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast, I am going to be sketching out on my iPad today, but I'm going to try my best to explain it so that it makes sense for you if you're just listening in. But we're going to tackle this by actually diving into the iPad, and I wanted to talk about a little bit of understanding, should we do a membership or an online course? I want to look at the pros, then the cons, and then I want to leave you with some advice. It's really going to help you decide where you should focus your efforts. So first of all, the first thing I want to talk about is a pro in the category of membership site. What's a pro? Well, an obvious one for a lot of us is recurring revenue, right? It's that recurring revenue, that ability to get someone to enroll once, and then you as the membership site owner receive that $30 a month, that $97 a month, whatever it is, over and over and over again for months on end. And I know I've had members who have been with me since the beginning, people who have been with me for 7 years because they just love to continue to learn and love to engage in our community. And so people can stick with you for long periods of time, and that's a pro. And as I mentioned last year, especially when COVID really started to hit and everybody started to lock down, one of the things that sustained me as a business was the recurring revenue between my membership site and my mastermind and my affiliate income. Those things allowed me, when it felt kind of wrong to be asking to sell things for about a month there, it allowed me to kind of coast in my business a little bit, where I didn't feel the pressure to sell something. So that's nice, is to be able to have recurring revenue. It'll stabilize your business. And I think every writer, speaker, coach or blogger or podcaster, when you eventually get to the place where a membership site makes sense to you, you should consider it, because what it's going to do is it's going to create that sustainability in your business. I mean, the ultimate goal would be for your business expenses and your salary, even your team's salary, to match the income, the recurring revenue that you have coming in. But this would also kind of be a little bit of a con for an online course, because typically with an online course, you're going to get paid once. Now, granted, you typically are going to get paid more than somebody who is buying a membership site. So if your course is $1,000, $2,000, if your course is $500, you're seeing all that money up front, which can be a nice profit generator, especially when you need it. But that is a one-time thing. Unless the one caveat is if you offer any kind of payment plan. So people typically will offer payment option as a second option that's either 3 months up to a year to help someone pay off the price. So if it's $1,000 course and you want to offer $97 a month for 12 months, you can do that. And you can have the benefit of some recurring revenue up to a year. So you can turn it into a little bit of a passive income type scenario if you do it right. But most courses, one con is you just get paid once and you don't get paid anymore. But what's a pro for an online course? Well, here's a pro for an online course. It's called Swiss, and this is an acronym, Swiss dollars. Now, I first learned this concept from Dan Miller from 48 Days to the Work You Love. And Swiss is an acronym that stands for Sales While I Sleep Soundly. Don't you want to make sales while you sleep soundly? That, my friend, is what an online course can do for you. I remember the very early days when I started a blog in career coaching, and I created a course on how to create a good resume and get your foot in the door for an interview. And I remember I had PayPal was the main way that I earned income. And I'll never forget like logging into PayPal and be like, wow, last night someone bought my $97 course. And then I would be at work all day because I wasn't doing it full time yet. And I would come home and see, wow, I made 2 sales in my PayPal account from my blog. And there's nothing like sales while I sleep soundly, because one of the advantages of an online course versus a membership site is once someone pays you money, there's nothing else you need to do. The fact that they get automatic access to something you already recorded, that's a huge benefit. Because if you've already recorded the course and uploaded it and set it up to where if they pay, they automatically get access, you're kind of hands off. Your recordings are doing all of the delivery. You don't have to show up. You don't have to give any more of your time. Having an online course to sell can be time freeing for you. So Swiss dollars is a huge advantage. Well, what's another pro of a membership site? Well, I think another pro is community. Now, if done correctly, having and allowing people to be in a community is a way to keep people around. Oftentimes, people come for the teacher, but they stay for the community. I know that's true with my Insider Mastermind. It's kind of a higher level membership site, but people often come for me, but they stay because of the community, the relationships, the other coaches, the helpful community that they are in there with, the masterminds that we have set up for our members to be a part of. Like, that community is a big deal. And that would also be a downside to most online courses, is there's little to no community. I mean, there might be a private Facebook group. There might be a way to leave a comment under a video, but you can't really afford to do a community if you're getting paid once to be able to offer that kind of support, where you can when you have recurring revenue coming in. How about another one? Another one for a membership site is instant feedback. And here's what I mean. Now, this is only true if you run a membership site how I typically do. So what I do is I typically show up live twice a month for my membership site. One of those is for me to teach a class. I love to teach. Many of you know I used to be a high school teacher. So for me, it is a really good fit because I always have something new to talk about, and I love to teach in a live environment. So I'm teaching it live, and my membership site students are able to ask questions. They're able to ask clarifying questions, and I get instant feedback. For example, I taught a class on blogging. We had way more engagement and people there than when I taught a class on doing live streaming. I was surprised. I thought, well, live streaming is kind of a new thing, but for my audience, not as many of them were interested in live streaming. They were way more interested in blogging. And I know that because I did the classes live. I got instant feedback. And that's also kind of a downside is it's hard to get feedback. So you get no feedback with an online course. You have to actually ask for it. I remember being frustrated by this back when I had the Blogging Your Passion University, because I would enroll, 30 or 40 students at one time for $1,000. And then I would wonder, are people taking action? Are people benefiting? What results are people getting? Like, I had to actually reach out to try to get a testimonial, to get feedback, because all of it was an online course. So that can be a downside as well. Here's the other pro about a membership site. It solves an ongoing problem. So a membership site is great for solving an ongoing problem. Do you have an ongoing problem that you're trying to help solve? For me, getting a business off the ground and making it your full-time income, whether you blog or a podcast or whatever, it's a process. It's typically a 2 to 5 year or more process. It's not going to happen in 90 days. Anybody who tells you that you can make, 6 figures in the next 90 days by doing what they tell you, run the other direction. All right? Because it's either illegal or they're nothing but hype. Okay? We're about the facts here. And your membership site, if you have an ongoing problem, meaning it's not something that can be solved in 30 days, then it's great for a membership site. When I was doing career coaching, it was a little bit more difficult to run a membership site, because once somebody found a new job and they got into the career, they were no longer needed the membership, right? They're ready to move on in their career. So think about, do you have an ongoing problem that you can help solve? And that means a pro on the online course part, there's 2 here, but one would be that it solves a specific problem. So for example, I had a course that was how to create an awesome resume that gets results, that gets to the top of the pile. That was a specific problem I had that I was trying to solve. Or how to get your foot in the door for an interview. That was a course that I sold that solved a specific problem. It wasn't necessarily an ongoing problem, but it was a specific problem. So courses work great for specific problems. And then the other thing I want to say about an online course that is a pro is that it's easier to launch. It's just easier to launch than a membership site. And the reason why is because you can launch it to virtually hardly any audience if you have no audience at all. And even if you only sell 1 or 2 or 3 of your courses, those 3 people don't know that there's only 3 people that bought your course, right? Because you don't know how many, like, think about any course you've ever bought. You don't know how many courses they sold or didn't sell. You have no idea. You just know you got the content, you got access to the content. In a membership site, it's a little bit more noticeable, because if you launch a membership site and you have 2 members or 3 members, now that doesn't mean it's a failure. You got to start somewhere, but it's all in how you position those 3 people on what you're trying to do. And so it's just a little bit harder to launch. So let's talk about some cons on the membership site, and then I'm going to give you some advice. So a con for a membership site is that you got to have new material all the time. Now, for some of you that are just teachers, this is not a problem. You're constantly learning, you're constantly reading the next book in your topic. And so, this isn't something that intimidates you, but you need to come up with new material each month, at least 1 to 2 pieces of content every month. And so it's just something to think about. If you love to teach, it's not going to be a problem. But if you're like, it burdens me to come up with something new to teach every month, membership site might not be the best choice for you. And here's another con, is that I feel like you need an engaged list. Now, I'll explain in just a minute what I mean by that, but you need to have a little bit of an engaged list to get people excited to get that first initial founding members. And I'll talk about why that's important in just a second. But just know that you need to have at least some ability, whether it's you have a very warm network, you have a lot of referrals, you have a way to get a word out, you've got some people on an email list, you've got a social media following. You need some type of base to really launch that membership site well, or it's going to be very difficult. All right, so let me give you some final thoughts and advice. So the last kind of box, if you're listening on the podcast, I've got pros, cons, and the last box is advice. So a membership site is on the left column, online course is on the right column. Here's some advice that I have for a membership site. People always want specifics. So I'm not saying this is absolutely required. I'm just trying to give you some specifics. I think for a membership site, you're going to need somewhere between 500 to 1,000 subscribers. And the reason is because that should yield you somewhere between 50 to 100 or more members. Now, I'm not saying if you can't get 50 members when you launch a membership site, it's totally worthless. Not necessarily. But I just think that's a good number to go after. When I started my membership site, I had about 2,000 on my email list, 2,000 somewhere in there, 2,500. And my goal was to get 150 people in the first 90 days. And we were able to get that. In 90 days, we were able to get 150 people to join, but we started that from a list of about 2,000, 2,500 people. All right. Now, on the online course, you can launch this with 0 to 500 subscribers. So you don't need near as many subscribers to just put a course out there, because it was Amy Porterfield who I heard her once say this back in the day. She became well known for having and teaching Facebook ads via a course. And when she was once asked, are you glad you did the online course? She said the online course brought the community. She goes, some people think, the audience has to come and then the course, but for her, she created the course. Now she had something to sell, and that brought the audience. So that's an example of you can launch something. If you've got 50 people on an email list and they're engaged, you might be able to sell 10 of those people on your online course, right? And they don't know that only 10 people bought the course, but it's revenue for you. It's money for you. So that's something to think about. And then the last thing I want to talk about on this topic on the membership site that'll really help you is what's the minimum? What's the minimum number of members times the fee that you're going to charge for your membership to make this worth it for you? You want to figure that out. So for example, I'll just give you an example off the top of my head here. If you had 25 members that were paying $30 a month, that is $750. Now, if you think about the fact that you're showing up, let's say, twice a month for them live to do a class, then are those 2 hours that you spend, or you also got to take into the fact, preparing for that talk as well. So maybe it's a total of 5 hours. Are those 5 to potentially 10 hours, are they worth $750 a month to you? If they're not, then that's a problem. If they are, and you say, yes, Jonathan, I will gladly give 5 to 10 hours a month for an additional $750 a month in revenue, then go for it. But figure out what your minimum is. And that might help you price it accordingly. What you want to be careful of is having $10 price and you've got 3 members. Now you're making $30 in revenue a month, but you're having to show up for 5 hours for them. That's a problem, right? So you got to think about what's the minimum to make this worth it. And one of the ways you could do this, and this is what I was concerned about when I was first starting a membership site, is I was concerned about like not getting enough people and not making it worth my time. And then how do I cancel this because it's not worth my time? And so what I did is I said, I'm going to open this up for 50 members, charter members, and I'm just going to do this thing. I'm going to try it out. And maybe in 60 days, we decide this is not the right avenue. Perfect. Or maybe we love this. And what I found was people loved it. And so I've been doing it ever since. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight. At the end of the day, here is what I would say. I think you want to have both. All right. So maybe the pathway is the pathway that I took. Start with an online course, build up that email list, and then launch a membership site. And then a couple times a year, you go back and forth between talking about your course, talking about your membership site. Your course serves a different purpose than your membership site. Your course solves a specific problem. Your membership site solves an ongoing problem. And that will bring in the profit plus the recurring revenue in your business. All right. So again, if you're like, Jonathan, this is great, but I still don't know where to even start. I don't know which business I should start online. Should I do a blog, a podcast? Well, first, you need to go grab our guide, the Discover Your Message Blueprint. So you want to go to marketyourmessage.com/discover and download that 9-page guide, and it'll help you decide the right business to start. Well, that's it for this episode. And what would you like for me to cover in future episodes? Let me know. And would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe to the show so we can notify you when other episodes come out. But until then, never forget, your message matters.